been a year since the deluge when the Bhagirathi river burst through its banks and swallowed up entire communities in its course. For the devout, it was the fury of the gods against humankind, the ones who populated and abused a pristine, ecologically fragile part of the country in the Himalayan foothills. A year on, we ask whether any lessons have been learned from last year's tragedy. Siddharth Pandey reports.
A year ago, tragedy struck Kedarnath and Uttarakhand, a tragedy of Himalayan proportions, in which thousands lost their lives and left the state infrastructure in tatters. A year on, we are back as pilgrims and tourists return. We trek up to Kedarnath to see if things have indeed changed on the ground and if important lessons have been learnt. Weather is not the only factor which can stop yatris in their tracks. Anyone wanting to trek to Kedarnath has to first get a mandatory fitness check. पहली बार शायद फिटनेस
ये पहली बार है, अभी तक तो नहीं आया था।
क्या बता?
गवर्नमेंट
पहले क्या नहीं होता था?
पहले फिटनेस नहीं होता था, मेडिकल नहीं होता था, ऐसा कुछ नहीं होता था पहले से।
Before tragedy struck, almost 15,000 pilgrims used to visit Kedarnath daily. Today, it's barely 1/10 that number. Kedarnath was the worst hit, as the Himalayan tsunami took with it thousands of pilgrims and hundreds of small shacks, hotels and shops between the 16th and 17th of June. Thousands used to make a living selling tea and refreshments to the yatris along the route. Bhim Singh used to run a tea stall at Rambada, which was washed away along with his son and nephew. For a year, he survived with the help from neighbors. An NGO also helped with some money to start a tea stall at Pata, the launch point for helicopters ferrying yatris to Kedarnath. Since the tragedy, Singh has not gone back to Rambada.
यहाँ और कुछ नहीं है केदारनाथ के अलावा, कोई रोजगार ही नहीं है। यहाँ पत्थर भी किसके पड़े, सब ऐसे ही है, बेरोजगार लोग हैं, तो रोजगार किसके पास है ही नहीं, नौकरी वाले कोई है नहीं। केदारनाथ के भरोसे सब लोग, केदारनाथ तो सबको जोड़।
और आप जाना चाहोगे वापस?
नहीं जाना चाहोगे?
क्यों नहीं जाना चाहोगे?
क्या बताएं वहाँ क्या?
उधर नहीं जाना चाहते आप वापस? Well, as you travel further higher up, you actually come across many glaciers, and this is just one of 3 glaciers we've actually come, and this is the biggest one so far. Just on the other side, you can just see that the camps are there, and the old path, if you were to walk, would just have one small glacier coming down, but you can see that the path is completely destroyed.
Some people have that kind of spiritual way ki we can go by walking only. So that's why we need a path ki in that path they can walk easily and steadily.
Jai Baba Kedar.
At close to 12,000 feet, a trek to Kedarnath is both a testing and humbling experience for most travelers. आप क्यों रो रहे हो?
निकट स्थान हो
ज्योतिर्लिंग सब हो गया,
सब ज्योतिर्लिंग हो गया,
आनंद बाष्पाल आता है,
आनंद बाष्प।
पिछले साल जो हुआ उसके बाद लगा कि आप यहाँ आओगे?
उसके लिए भी बहुत रो रहे हैं, क्योंकि भगवान के सामने ऐसे होने तो थोड़ा सा मन को उसका प्रॉब्लम हो गया। प्रॉब्लम मतलब भगवान ये कैसे हो गए आपके पे, in front of you, how it is possible.
A year on, the signs of last year's savage destruction are still visible. Most of the buildings in Kedarnath, which had been in the path of the raging waters, have been marked as unsafe and will have to be razed.
You see, destruction has been made. Reconstruction should be done, but not in this haphazard manner.
We have selected 2-3 places which are adjacent to the temple town, where we will develop the future Kedarnath Dham.
The route to Kedarnath is now almost virtually complete. Pilgrims are once again coming back to this ancient temple. But the big question now lies ahead. What happens to the livelihoods of thousands of people who are affected by this tragedy? How do we begin the process of reconstruction of Kedarnath and its surrounding areas? These will be important questions in the days ahead. With Hridesh Joshi, Siddharth Pandey for NDTV.
Well, joining me now to talk about those lessons we may have learned, in the studio with me, Captain Puneet Bakshi, civil pilot who also saved lots of lives last year in that tragedy. Nitin Sethi, senior journalist with the Business Standard, and my colleague and senior journalist Hridesh Joshi from NDTV India, who has just written his book on the tragedy as well, which is in the markets. तुम क्यों चुप थे केदार?
हाँ, तुम चुप क्यों रहे
तुम चुप
केदार?
क्यों
Why
रहे
did you keep
केदार?
silent?
Why did you keep silent? All right, I want to ask you, actually Captain Puneet Bakshi, let me start with you, since you were pressed into service at that point in time, on your own, you're a civil pilot. How did you land up there? What did you see?
Well, I wasn't pressed into service since in the civil we already have a sort of a helicopter route that is defined, which is for regular pilgrimage. There are choppers of various companies. Maybe at that time there were, I think, 7 to 8 companies there with one chopper each, and all of us were operating from a place called Fata, which is at some distance till which you can go by road, and then thereafter you would get the people on board the chopper and do a 10-minute shuttle, drop them to Kedarnath and get back. So it was just incidental that all of us found ourselves there when the weather struck, so to speak. And what really happened was there was a cloud burst. It's a phenomena where suddenly there is a downpour that just starts and doesn't stop, because it's a meteorological thing.
Right.
And the interesting part was that it didn't catch anybody by surprise. But we had met reports of this happening 3 or 4 days back. As pilots, we were told that we expect bad weather.
Bad weather.
And the state government knew that as well. But the tourists were not told this, or even if they were told, to be honest, they were adamant that if they've come all this way, they would rather go. So what really happened was there was a bottlenecking of tourists who came up to there. Now, because there was partly bad weather in the previous few days, they were stranded there in a place called Gaurikund. So now you would have 2 or 3 times the number of people actually at a place because of
that. In fact, one of the interesting things that we have been looking at this year, that the number of pilgrims have fallen actually this year from last year to these areas. Perhaps it's the fear of the rains.
It has gone down 1/10. Yeah, Siddharth and I were there. So roughly 14 to 15,000 people at when it is on the peak go to Kedarnath. But it is not only hit in Kedarnath. Badrinath, Gangotri, Yamunotri, all people are a little scared, and these roads keep caving in. So people, if you go from Rudraprayag to Joshimath, which leads to Badrinath.
So how much of the reconstruction work has been done? I mean, you've been traveling in that region.
Kedarnath is a phenomenal thing. Kedarnath will take some time, but they have, interestingly, they have made a way. After Rambana, the left side of the mountain was totally caved in.
Right.
So they have built a road on the right side of the mountain.
Okay.
But other places also. But the other thing is, Maya, as monsoon comes again,
and it pours. It
again,
Okay.
So it's not a very easy thing also.
Okay, I want to bring Nitin Sethi in on this as well. Nitin Sethi, we're calling this, sort of the man-made destruction of a natural disaster, in a manner of speaking, because we look at our ecologically sensitive areas and the kind of populations that exist over there, the kind of influx of tourists that happen over there. What can we as citizens do to actually ensure that something like this doesn't take the kind of lives that it did last year?
I think one thing we must be very clear about, this is not an issue about the population or the density of people there. It's really a problem of the way we've built our infrastructure in the hills. We've built it almost as if we are building it in the plains. We're allowing buildings to come up right along the river length. We're building, in the process, you've actually ensured that the entire river systems, they've got disturbed. You've changed the way people live. You've made the dependency on the road higher than upon the hills itself. You've forgotten that they have agriculture that they should have focused on. There's some of the largest number of fractured and small marginal farmers are in those hills, but we brought them all down to the road, and we've ensured they have nothing to do except sit in those road shacks on the side and make an livelihood. And then they get obviously lose their lives in the process.
The pressure is so much of tourism. When Siddharth and I were there, people were crying, and every time they were saying there is nothing other than Kedarnath. लोग कहते थे कि आप केदारनाथ को हटा दो तो यहाँ क्या है? And Captain Bakshi must have felt it. You just remove tourism, there is nothing. But how much pressure that tourism can take, and what kind of roads they are building.
And also, not just the roads. I think one of the things, and Captain Bakshi, maybe you can also shed some light on this, since you do run these services over there. the sense that people who visit that area don't really understand the ecological space that they are entering and what also needs to be done therefore to ensure they do their bit. Nitin is talking about the way construction has happened, for example. What all do you see when you go up there in the skies?
Why would you just tell the people who visit there? How about the people who live there?
Right.
Do they understand it? Would they understand that by creating little shacks on the side of the road and making half-baked constructions, they're actually doing more damage to their own land? Nobody understands anything except money.
Right.
And money is something that is overpowering, and that has got us to this end. And to be honest, like there was the question that you had asked, that what can be done and what needs to be done, is the answer to that is, do we really value human life? That is the answer. If you check the stats on how many people have died in Uttarakhand year on year, you would find a staggering number of deaths. Sometimes a bus falls overboard, sometimes the river gushes out. It's just incidental that this time it was so disastrous that we lost so many lives.
Otherwise, small incidents keep on taking place.
Last year, even last year, just next to Okimat, next to Guptakashi, Okimat, the mountain caved in and it took life of 28 people.
Okay, I want to ask both Hridesh and Nitin this question, because land use in these states, Uttarakhand, Himachal as well, there's a lot of restrictions on land use. There's a lot of restrictions who can come in and buy that land. No outsider to the state can go in and purchase. But as a result, given that there is a limit, people are partitioning and breaking up large tracts of land and multiplying the amount of construction on them.
As you say this, I mean, we should keep in mind, the irony is, if you go to Agastmuni, people say we have been given compensation. They admit it. We have been given 5-10 lakh rupees compensation, but where do we go and where do we build our houses? Because there is no land. And if you see, as Captain Bakshi was saying, there is no sensitivity. The real estate lobby. If you put a RTI, I am sure that we will find that the local leaders, at least half of them, will have a direct or indirect relation with them. So you put a check legally, but you promote illegally, hobnob with real estate mafia and all these people. You do not allow, which should be legitimately done, but you do everything, which...
I would just interject here, like once this disaster happened, it came in the limelight and a lot of us have been talking about it.
Right.
But the fact of the matter is, and this is true, that I personally went along with a few colleagues of mine, we did approach the state government well before, in the same year, a couple of months before this disaster, and we came with a proposal. The proposal we went with was of an air ambulance. Now, air ambulance is something that is,
would be highly useful in a hill state.
Almost a given in the rest of the world, other than a third world country or a, we are not, if we pretend that we are not a third world country, we have to take these steps. Now, I just want to make a small story. I checked up with my friends in Europe and everywhere else, how do they handle a disaster? Because it is, in our job, helicopters are used for only in disasters and emergencies.
Right.
So, we would ourselves want to know, how do you conduct it? Who is running the show? And what they found out was that how it starts is always starts from a citizen outcry. Like, for example, my friend who's also a pilot in Norway, he told me a story. He said in the late 60s or early 70s somewhere, in the middle of a town in Norway, there's a frozen lake and there is this whole crowd having this nice time skating around. Children are skating on the ice. And then one child just came on thin ice and went under. And because it is ice, so you can see the boy has gone under and he's floating under the ice. And the whole city is there and they can't do anything about it. And they have got the television guys in, they got the divers in, and by the time they took the body out, apparently the child was frozen to death. And there was such a national mourning about it. But what did they do? It was not a news flash that went away or a panel discussion that finished. What they did was, they took a little box and they collected money.
Right.
They did not wait for the government to do anything.
Right.
And they bought themselves a chopper which is worth $1 million or more. And they positioned it there and they said, we are not waiting for the government to do anything.
Okay, that's a good story actually for us to also end this on. But Nitin Sethi, I want to just give you the last one, bring you in on this. Hridesh made a point about the real estate mafias and the sectors. Government and private collusion also, in a sense. How do you control that and then work on citizens' initiatives like this?
I think the Uttarakhand has been good that it has lots of old movements and initiatives by communities which have been doing really well for the last 30-40 years despite the government. What the government really needs to do is This is enough on paper that they need to really implement. Look at the fact that they have not really implemented river regulatory zones along the river systems. Enough programs to suggest what kind of organic agriculture you can grow, that you can grow investments and revenues and returns for the people. Your biggest growth sector in Uttarakhand today is forestry, where the government makes most money out of forestry and the people don't. If you can shift people away towards such things, you're actually shifting them away from these dangerous areas as well.
High value quality product, which can be, you should target consumers who can buy high value quality product.
Okay, I think we'll have to actually leave it on that note, but as we said, 1 year on, we are looking at the lessons we have learned, and perhaps there are some still to go forward. One is that we need to also protect the environments that we inhabit in order to ensure they are safe for us. Thanks a lot for watching The Buck Stops here tonight.